everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Macaw Podcast universe. And this is the podcast that exists to prove people wrong when they say sequels are never better than the originals. And what do we get to do today? We get to go back to Woodsboro.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to try and figure out who is the murderer this time, because we're covering a movie that came out last Friday called Scream.
Yes.
Now, right off the bat, when we do current releases, we keep it spoiler-free for the first little bit. But we're going to give you a little taste so that if you weren't sure if you should go see it in the theaters, you can maybe get a taste for that. Here's what I'm going to say. If you like Scream at all, do not walk to the theater, run to the theater. This movie is so good.
Yeah, give them your money.
It was crazy how good it was.
It was really good.
And the whole last sequence, which of course we'll get into later in the episode, I was, through my mask, I was just smiling the entire sequence.
I kept giving Mike a thumbs up throughout the movie, and then when the last sequence was getting ready to go, I held on to Micah's hand like we were about ready to go down a big dip in a roller coaster. Because we're about to have some fun.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it so much. Right off the bat, I just loved it so much, and it's an easy number 2 for Scream. It's definitely better than 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
Like, easily.
Yeah.
And it's just great because, we talked about, what is this going to be about? What is it going to have to say about horror? Because that's the best part about Scream is what does it have to say about horror? And this movie was chocked to the brim full of horror. And not even just horror. It talked about the current state of modern blockbuster filmmaking.
It did. And it was, you mentioned that you feel like this movie accomplished what the last one was trying to do, but it's almost like the last movie just didn't have enough.
It didn't have enough time to do it.
Not enough time to really probably do what it was trying to do more. And we both liked that movie.
Yeah, that was my number 2 before.
Yeah, so this is just like, they waited a couple years and then they get to say this now, they said some things where I'm like, holy crap, they're right. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think it is insane to me that within the same 4 weeks we had Matrix Resurrections, which was also like contemplating what's the purpose of like a reboot or like revisiting a franchise after over a decade.
And that movie didn't do well. And then we have this movie that's contemplating the same themes.
Yeah. This
movie's doing really well.
Yeah. And I loved Matrix Resurrections. I loved it. I think this movie's a better movie.
Yeah.
But I do love Matrix Resurrections. But this movie just nailed it out of the park. I feel like it gave me kind of the same feeling that I got watching the first Scream movie.
Yeah.
And they kind of were able to bake their cake and eat it too in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
There's some specific things that I don't want to talk about in our spoiler free section. But in the spoiler section where it was like, you're making fun of that thing, but you're also giving us the satisfactions of being fans of this franchise.
Right.
So we like that we get to see it.
Yeah.
But you're also saying how silly that is.
Exactly.
Yeah, so let's talk about the movie theater experience, because we did something, radical this time around. I usually buy the tickets, but I hand the phone to Jordan and I say, I want you to pick where we sit. And Jordan picks the front row, not the ones that are on the ground, but it's the first level up. So we are really close. And as we're coming to sit down at our seat, and we start seeing, like teenagers come in and stuff like that. And, horror movies are kind of this communal experience where there is sort of a version of you go see a horror movie and everyone's laughing and screaming and all that stuff.
Or you go see a horror movie and people are talking the whole time and at the end yell, that sucked. Like, It Comes at Night.
It Comes at Night,
which was a terrible theater experience.
Experience.
This was whatever. I was hoping, because there were a lot of teenagers in the movie, and I was like, this is perfect, Micah. They're all sitting behind us, so we're not going to see any phones, because they're 100% on their phone throughout this. And we'll probably get some like fun screaming.
Uh-huh.
None of it. Just a lot of talking. But the movie was so loud that you couldn't really hear him.
Yeah, I think had we sat further back, I think it may have been worse for us.
Yeah.
So I think that might be a hack. We're going to keep you updated as we go throughout our lives.
I don't know if I can do an action movie that close.
No, but horror movies. Because horror movies
yeah.
are so much, people talk throughout them. And people do things like they say, like, don't go in there. Like, I've heard, you hear people say those things. And if you're not into that, we're going to attempt the front row for a little bit and see how that goes.
Yeah, because we see so many horror movies in theaters.
I wish we saw more. Hopefully we'll get there this year. But having said that, could you hear the people that were sitting next to me?
I heard a guy burp really loud that was sitting near us.
Well, so it's like I'm advocating for the front row thing right now. But the people who were sitting next to us sucked.
Oh, really? How come you didn't tell me last night?
Because I didn't want to bother you.
Because you were having a good...
Well, I kind of forgot.
Oh.
But so here's what I think is weird about what was happening. There was a man and a woman, and the woman talked nonstop the entire movie.
About the movie?
About the movie, to the theater, to her boyfriend or whoever, to the movie. The entire movie. Did not stop. I only didn't hear her when it was too loud to hear.
Oh, man.
And what annoyed me about it was... So, these movies...
Was she doing the It thing?
No.
Okay.
But, well, kind of. So, these movies are like contemplating what is a horror movie, and they're usually making fun of the tropes, but they're also celebrating them and all that stuff. So she's doing things like maybe a character decides to go into a room, and she's going, don't go in there, duh.
Oh, one of those.
And she's doing that, and she's like, quote, like figuring out the movie as it goes. Like when they reveal the killer, I think I heard her say like, oh yeah, I thought it was him the whole movie or something.
Yeah.
Or her or whoever.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it for you guys. But I was just like, what do you do? Like, this is a movie that's analyzing those things. So why are you?
But that's the thing. And they even say it in the movie. People are always going to do that. That's how that person is coping with the tension.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most annoying things in the world. And we've all been there to some degree. But it does drive me out of this world when people are just like, you're not supposed to run up the stairs. Why are you doing that? And it's like, well, they're doing it because it's a horror movie. Also, this is what I always think of. You'd probably do it too.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't know what you would do in that situation. We always talk about, like, I wouldn't do this. You got to do this. And they even say this in the movie. But they do it anyway. That's the whole point.
Well, they really hit that hard in the very first Scream movie.
Yeah. But they did it in this movie, too, with, like, going down to the basement and stuff.
Yeah. But I actually think this movie, more than all the rest, it was so smart where every single character was, like, really smart with their decisions.
Uh-huh.
And that's a classic Scream thing, but I think they like really nailed it this time.
Well, everyone's Randy now. That's the really fun thing about this movie. You do have that one character like was Randy, the girl, but like everyone was pretty much. Right. That's fun.
It is fun.
I mean, it's really annoying.
Well, it's annoying if that person's sitting next to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just don't like when people go into movies thinking they're better than the movie. You gotta give the movie the chance.
Let it take you.
But I hope that they enjoyed it, I guess. Because maybe that's just what she does in every movie.
She could just be a little bit quieter.
But maybe she could just watch it at home.
Yeah.
Or just react loudly to the things.
The guy enjoyed it? Was he engaging with her?
I couldn't tell.
Okay.
But there were a couple times where I thought about doing a shush. I actually thought about the shush.
Really?
Yeah, because it was
I can't believe I didn't hear this.
Well, they were quiet, but we were also
you're like that. You're hearing.
But I can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
And I mean, they were like 7 chairs away, so I guess they weren't quiet. But it was like, I'm pretty sure that's the killer. Okay, yeah, he probably is. Oh, why would they go in there? That doesn't really make sense. They shouldn't do that. That's not really a good idea. Actually, in the first one, and I'm like, oh my gosh, shut up.
That's bad. I wonder if the guy, like, I just wonder.
She was woman-splaining to him.
Okay. I wonder if the guy was just like, he's used to this. Mm-hmm. And he's at a point in their relationship, whether he's accepted it or they don't know each other quite well enough, where he's just like, yeah, she just does this.
Yeah.
I've just learned to tune it out.
Well, I have not. But let's talk about who made this movie. Okay? So it's directed by two guys. It's Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett. Did not look up how to pronounce their names, but that's their names. And they directed Devil's Due, the movie that came out a couple years ago, Ready or Not, which I believe had the woman in the wedding dress, like with a shotgun.
I can't believe every time you say that title, I'm like, what's that movie?
Every single time.
And then you start describing the poster, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one. I will forget it in 10 seconds.
You will. And then they directed this movie.
Wow.
So they're pretty kind of new around the feature film.
They're new around
block.
town.
Yeah. It's written by James Vanderbilt, who wrote Zodiac, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Whoa, he wrote Zodiac?
Yeah.
Okay. That guy can deal with complicated scripts.
Yeah. But I don't know if he was a solo credit. I didn't look that up.
Okay.
But still, he's got a credit for Zodiac.
What was the next one?
The Amazing Spider-Man. And Independence Day Resurgence, amongst a lot of other stuff.
Is that new one?
That's the new one.
On Amazon?
No, Independence Day Resurgence is the sequel to Independence Day.
Well, yeah, I know that. But is that movie newer or not?
It's like 2016,
Oh, never mind.
I think.
Never mind.
And then the other writer is Guy Busick, who wrote Ready or Not, and he did a couple episodes of Castle Rock in season 2.
Cool.
So we've messed around with him before.
What happened to the second season of Castle Rock? Oh, that was the Misery stuff.
Yep.
Cool.
The cinematography is by Brett Jetkewitz, and he's doing some upcoming episodes in Stranger Things.
Okay.
And he shot The Black Phone, which comes out in April, I think.
This movie looked good.
It did.
I was kind of curious. I'm just curious the choice of this. Everyone had a very big close-up.
Yes.
Throughout the movie, and I'm just curious why.
Well, I was thinking about that, and I was like, because part of it, I was like, we're a little closer than we're used to, so the faces look really big.
Well, okay, yeah.
So there was that, and I thought maybe that's just it. But there's a scene early on when Dewey and Gale meet for the first time, and
ever,
and it keeps cutting, and there were like not really a shot with both of them in it. There were stand-ins, and I was kind of like,
I think it was COVID stuff.
Well, hang on, let me ramp here. And so I'm thinking, oh man, maybe they're, they
can't even film together.
They can't even film together, but they shot this whole movie during COVID.
Do you think that's COVID related?
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's definitely COVID related.
Because it wasn't, sometimes when you do tight shots like that, it makes me think of like, we're really like learning about them. This is really intimate and personal, but it just felt a little too close.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a lot of, because, this is a lot of like, you have a group of teenagers discussing who a potential killer is. And so they're probably like, hey, let's do one shot of everybody, and then let's just do tights because that's safer.
Yeah, and you have to do it really tight.
Yeah.
Because you can't have that other person's shoulder.
And I kind of didn't even put that together till you said that.
Oh.
Because when I was reading that it was shot in COVID, I was like, this one, I mean, it's kind of strange to think that this was shot in COVID because they did a good job hiding it.
Yeah.
But now that you mention it, I sort of notice it.
Movie looked good, though.
It did look really good. Brian Tyler.
Oh, also at one point, someone said, I think it was at the end of the movie, someone was talking about like 90s movies or like early 2000s.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was at the end. Is it just at some point? Someone was just like, oh, those movies are terrible. No, it's at the beginning when she's on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And just saying how like they're all so brightly lit.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, they're directly talking about the third movie. I think
and they're talking about the first movie.
Well,
like all the
just,
screens are really bright.
The third movie is like blinding you with sunlight. The whole
it looks
movie.
like
it's
a
so
sitcom.
washed out. It's so bad.
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny.
The fourth movie's really blown out too because they're shooting on digital, I think. Oh no, we found out they shot on film, but there was like some weird thing. Listen to our Scream 4 episode. We talk about that. But all of these movies are really like overly lit.
Yeah.
This one was maybe the least lit. But it didn't get into that Netflix zone that we've talked about so many times where you just can't see anything. But the music is by Brian Tyler, and he's done some Marvel movies and a bunch of Fast and Furious movies. So we've talked about him / we'll talk about him some more.
For what?
Music.
Okay.
And, so the budget of the movie is $24 million. And as of now, the movie's made a little over $35 million this weekend here in the U.S., dethroning Spider-Man, the first movie since Spider-Man came out to go number one. And worldwide, it's already at like 48 million. So it's already like made all its money. So that's freaking cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to know that people are this excited about Scream, you know?
Yeah.
So let's talk about how this was made a little bit. If you remember, when they made Scream 4, the studios were ready to go with 2 more movies after that. And Kevin Williamson was working on scripts and stuff. But Scream 4 did so poorly that they didn't do that.
Okay.
So instead, they did 2 seasons of an MTV show, Scream.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Is he part of that? Is he involved? Kevin Williamson?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
And then He Who Shall Not Be Named, his company closes because he gets in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
In 2017, and Spyglass Media gets the rights to Scream.
Okay.
And we had a whole conversation, you and I, before the movie started, where we were like, ooh, who produced this movie? Because Dimensions is no longer a studio. And then also...
Dimensions is not?
I don't think so. I haven't seen it on anything in a long time.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's not. And then also, He Who Shall Not Be Named studio is defunct as well. So...
Yeah.
So Spyglass gets the rights.
I think it's important to know, and I don't know if you said this, that Kevin Williamson produced this movie. So you didn't hear that he wrote it or anything, but he produced it.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's important.
Yeah, and for those who forgot, Kevin Williamson came up with Scream.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote 1, 2, and 4. And the third one is definitely the worst, and he had nothing to do with the third movie.
Yeah.
And so, his blessing is a good sign.
Yes.
But yeah, so that happens. Spyglass gets the rights, and they say, let's make a Scream movie. And then they pretty much just get the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we know, another thing about this series is famously, Scream 2 leaks on the internet, the script, and they're rewriting the movie. And every time they make a Scream movie, they're always afraid of leaks. The same way that, like, Marvel is. Yeah. It's hilarious. I love it. And so they shot extra material.
In case they needed to change the ending or something?
I think they just shot it to, like, throw people off. And then they also made, like, different scripts that were just around. So that if someone got a hold of one...
It might not be the right one.
So that's how they made Scream 2022.
Cool.
Jordan, actors.
Okay.
Acties?
So we have all of our usual suspects, such as Nev, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette. But some newcomers we have are Melissa Barrera, who plays Samantha. Sorry, hold on. She is our main character. Her name is Sam Carpenter. Carpenter?
Oh.
Sounds like a nod to John Carpenter.
Yeah.
She's also in The Heights, Vita, All the World is Sleeping, and in a lot of Mexican movies and TV shows.
I looked at either her Wikipedia or her IMDb, and I couldn't see the person that I saw in the movie last night.
Her IMDb pictures just looks very different.
I just couldn't see the same person.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Anyway.
I'm sorry to hear it. Jenna Ortega plays Tara, her sister. She is in The Babysitter Killer Queen, Iron Man 3, Elena of Avalor, and You. And then Dylan Minette. He plays a character named Wes. Sounds like another nod to Wes Craven. He is in Prisoners.
Woo!
He is in Let Me In.
Woo!
One of my probably top 5 favorite horror movies.
Woo!
Ever. Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
Woo!
Please stop.
Okay.
Don't Breathe and 13 Reasons Why. And then we have Jack Quaid, the sunny boy of Dennis Quaid.
Sunny boy.
He's in Hunger Games, The Boys, Logan Lucky, Star Trek, Lower Decks.
Yeah.
He is the same age as my sister, and that's weird to me. And then Jasmine Savoy Brown plays one of the twins. She's the requel girl person. She gives the big monologue. She is also in For the People, Leftovers, Will, Love, and Yellow Jackets. I think I'm recognizing her from a lot of ads for Yellow Jackets.
Okay.
For me. Because that's new. And then Sonia Amar is in... Oh, I skipped someone.
No. Jordan.
No, I haven't. Sonia Amar is in this movie, Japaloop, Petite Biscuit, Drive Me Through the Night.
Petite Biscuit. New band name, called it.
Yeah. And then Mikey Madison is also in Once Upon a Time, It Takes Three, Monster.
In Hollywood?
In Hollywood.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Nostalgia and Liza. And I won't say it because it's a spoiler, technically.
Maybe don't say it at all.
Okay. It's just crazy what happens with her. That I threw my hands up, and not in a bad way. I was just like, they're what? They just did that? Crazy.
We'll talk about it on the other half.
Oh, I won't forget. And then Mason Gooding is the sonny boy of Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah, that's so nuts.
Mm-hmm. And he's younger than us, which feels weird.
That's very weird. He's really good in this movie.
Yes, it took me probably most of the way through the movie, and it was just like a light bulb went off, and I was like, went on. And I was like, oh, that's Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son. I heard it in that scene.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, he's in Booksmart.
Yeah.
So he's in Booksmart, Let It Snow, Love Victor, Electric Easy, Picard, Ballers, and The Good Doctor.
Ah, such a good doctor. Is that everybody? Are you putting the phone down?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So do we have anything else to say before we head to the spoiler section?
No.
Okay. So I'm gonna go get some popcorn.
Right now?
Yeah, I'm just gonna pop some popcorn. You know, it's very Scream to make some popcorn, so I'm just gonna go make some popcorn. So I'll be right back. Just cover for me, would you?
Okay. So annoying. He does this like almost every episode in the middle of it too. Oh. Hello?
Hello.
What's up? Who is this?
Is Micah there?
No, he's doing the whole popcorn thing. He went to go get some popcorn.
Well, he tells me that you really like movies.
Oh, he probably would know that better than anyone.
And you also like podcasts.
Yeah, he would know that better than anyone too.
Would you like to play a game, Jordan?
Well, if Micah knows anything about me, he knows I don't really like games. But
No.
I mean, I'm waiting for this whole popcorn thing. So I guess if it's simple, easy, fast, we can just play a game.
Well, what if I told you that you have to play a game, or else that popcorn Micah's making won't happen?
Oh, why wouldn't it happen?
Because I'll gut him like a pig.
Who is this?
Oh, it's just a friend of Micah's.
Okay, let's play the game. I guess to save his life or whatever.
Yes, to save his life,
You sound familiar.
I'm gonna start with an easy question for you, Jordan. It's so easy, anyone could get it. It's about your favorite podcasts. It's about your favorite movies. It's about film franchises.
That sounds very familiar. Can't think of the one. Am I supposed to say the name of it?
No, I haven't asked the question yet.
Okay.
So here's the question. The Macabre Podcast universe is a kind of popular. It's sort of popular. Hopefully it'll get popular.
Well, I don't know.
podcast.
Micah keeps leaving for popcorn.
And in that show, they have a Patreon-only show at patreon.com/Micah Macabre.
Yeah, you're saying they, but it's us. You guys, me, and him.
What is
Just
that?
a little respect.
What is that Patreon show called, and what do they do?
You might be thinking of MPU, the sequel, where we talk about movies with only 2 entries. So, like, we've covered, like, Finding Nemo and Finding Dory, etc., etc.
Ding, ding, ding. You got that one right. I guess maybe Micah's going to be able to finish that 2-minute and 10-second popcorn microwaving he's got.
Does he know you're here? I mean, should I let him know?
I don't know, but I can see you through the window and I can tell you're recording a podcast right now.
So predictable.
Question 2.
Okay.
What will happen when the Patreon for Micah and Jordan
Thank you.
reaches 50 patrons?
So a fun little thing will happen where we get to, when we get 50 patrons, we get to go through the entire filmography of Pixar. And I forget what Micah titled it. Because I forget where Pixar's located. But we'll go over every Pixar movie.
Does that include the movies that don't have sequels that you haven't already covered on patreon.com/Micah McCaw?
Pretty hard question. Yeah, I think so.
That was just question B, part 2.
Okay.
Final question, Jordan.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I think Micah's popcorn's almost done.
I'm going to make this one really easy. It's multiple choice. How much does it cost to join the Patreon? A, $3, B, $5, or C, $10?
Oh, this feels like a trick question. There's no D, none of the above. Just A, B, or C. Let's go with, I think it's $5.
Wrong. You're wrong. It's all of the above. Now I'm going to go kill Micah.
Well, good luck because I can hear the microwave. Oh,
Boom, boom.
Mike.
Hey, Jordan.
Hey, you already ate all the popcorn?
No, I actually thought that it might be annoying to be on mic eating.
It took you this many episodes to finally get to the point of knowing that it's annoying to eat popcorn on mic.
Yeah, and by the way, someone was like banging on the door, but I just, set our security system and I just locked everything, and I think it's fine.
Oh, that's unusual, but I didn't hear it. I was on the phone with a friend.
Yeah, okay.
I think they were very interested in the Patreon. I think that we might get a new patron soon.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, this would be a great time to plug that, right?
Sure, yeah. I think he was a little misinformed, or maybe I misinformed him a little bit, but it doesn't matter what tier you sign up for, you can get podcast stuff on any of them. I'm just now remembering that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I kind of hope he calls back so that I can tell him.
Oh, so you already talked. Okay, you talked about. Let's just talk about the movie.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about the movie. So, now we're in the spoiler zone.
Okay.
The movie begins, and as all Scream movies start, there is gonna be a kill at the beginning of the movie. Now, there's this girl. It's Tara, I mean, and she, of course, is texting.
Alone.
She's home alone. She's cooking something. I don't remember what.
Looks like pasta.
And she gets a phone call.
Love that all the stuff that was in the trailer, like 95% of it is this first part of the movie.
It's true. There was like there was nothing from the last scene, I don't think.
What more do they need to get people to get butts and C's?
Yeah. Although I do remember a shot of Sydney walking in the house.
That's why I say 95%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's texting her friend, trying to get her friend to come over, Amber.
Mm-hmm. And Amber is the girl that's at the end, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
In Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So she's trying to get her to come over, and the phone is ringing with an unknown caller.
Classic.
And she doesn't answer it at first, but then she answers it on the second time. And the person is asking for her mom.
Yeah, and he says something like
we're in group together.
And she's going, "Oh, what group?" And you as the listener, I mean the viewer, you're like, you already know, of course, what's going on. Mm-hmm. But it's great. And then he says, I hear, your mom talks about how you really like
horror movies. And she's so proud that she's making a horror movie fan out of you. I like that touch. It breaks down barriers. She's like, she really is?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he asks what her favorite scary movie is.
And this
is like,
freaking rules.
Okay, guys, let's go. She says Babadook.
Yeah.
Which is a really good horror movie.
Yeah.
And the person's kind of like, Babadook? Really? What is that movie even about? And she's talking about how it's just a perfectly emotional, nuanced movie about grief and motherhood.
Yeah.
Which it makes me want to watch the movie again because it's only been one time for me.
Yeah.
And he's just saying like, come on, horror movie.
Don't you like the stab movies?
Yeah, don't you like the stab movies? And she's like, oh, those are so cheesy.
And they're slashers and they suck. I like elevated horror.
Elevated horror.
Okay, so right off the bat, it's like
right off the bat, the whatever money we paid
is
to
worth
get
it.
this movie is worth it.
Because we've talked a lot on this podcast how there is this trend right now where it's like, oh, Midsommar and Hereditary are good, but Insidious is bad. Or, things like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, but the movies that, like, it
Insidious
has to
is
be.
an interesting comparison for me.
Well, I was just thinking of a Blumhouse movie.
Oh, okay.
Like, Blumhouse movies are bad. A24 horror movies are good.
Okay.
That's kind of the breakdown.
Is Robert Eggers A24?
He is.
Okay.
So it's like, it has to be about, it can't just be a guy in a killer mask that's running around killing babysitters.
Yes.
It can't be that because that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It can't be Fear Street.
It doesn't scare people anymore.
Yeah. So I
you
love
have to,
that
you
they
have to
tap
have an
into this.
existential crisis these days to watch a horror movie, and instead of just laughing and screaming watching a horror movie because you're having fun and the adrenaline is so high. No, today you got to have an existential crisis that leaves someone like me bawling my eyes out and can't finish a movie.
Yes. And, throughout time, horror has always been a looked down upon genre.
Mm-hmm.
So, even in literary, like Stephen King, many people wouldn't consider him great because of what he writes. Yeah. I think more people would now. And I think
that's changed, but yeah.
I think with horror, there's enough people that grew up on horror that are now influential film writers.
Yeah, this is what
the tide has changed a little bit.
Yes. So a big thing that I've learned this year, so on Facebook, I'm in a lot of horror groups, especially horror writers. And when the Halloween Kills came out, it was only people talking about how excited they were to see the movie.
Yeah.
I think I heard that the movie is pretty good, but I only heard it from people because I don't know anyone else who's seen it. But just in seeing what people posted, it's just like, I think the movie could have been terrible and these people still would have loved it.
Yeah.
And that's just, I love that. And when Scream came out, all I saw in those groups were just people being so excited and saying how great the movie is. It is great outside of those things, but it's like some horror franchises will always sell tickets.
Yep.
Because there's like people cannot get enough of it.
Exactly.
Of that care of Michael Myers.
And in a lot of ways, it's fun that we are covering them because, like, starting to cover more horror series because in a lot of ways, like, horrors are kind of the first franchises, all the way back to the Universal monsters.
Yeah.
So there's something about horror where you can do it over and over again. But this is talking about elevated horror, and I love that already.
Me too.
I'm hooked already.
I will say I do like the elevated horror that has come out in the last couple of years. It is good stuff.
Well,
it is like refreshing to watch a Scream movie.
Yeah. Well, and I like this more than some of those elevated horror movies.
Yeah.
And I like what Jordan Peele said, though, because people kept calling Get Out elevated horror.
Yeah.
Or maybe Us. And he was like, I don't agree with that. I made a horror movie because I like horror movies. I didn't set out to make something elevated. I just made a movie. So don't call it elevated horror.
What's funny about that is, so we're thinking of elevated horror, and to me, it's like, I guess Get Out could be under that category. You could argue it very easily because of the social themes are so profound, but it's also just like a crazy, weird movie.
Right.
That is scary, and the adrenaline is crazy in that movie. So I can see both arguments.
Yeah.
For his stuff. But yeah, he's asking her about the stab movies, which she's just like, that's not good horror anymore.
Yeah.
We need the thought-provoking stuff. And he's just trying to convince her how much better like stab movies are.
Uh-huh.
And then he asks if she wants to play a game.
Yeah. And this is when he asks about the stab movies.
Yes.
And
well, she does hang up at a point.
Yeah, hangs up. And then he calls back, and he keeps calling.
She's like on her phone texting Amber about this, and the phone's ringing, and it says her Amber texts her and says you should pick that up.
Yeah,
which is like, ooh, which was in the trailer, but it's still like, ooh, tension. She picks it up,
and we're tapping into texting, which is cool how they're dealing with the texting stuff in this movie because they text a lot in this movie.
They do,
and it totally works.
Yeah,
they transferred it because texting in movies is sometimes the worst.
Yes,
but it really works.
They didn't do it too much. Opinion. So she answers the phone again. It's the guy. He is no longer Mr. Nice Guy. He is saying that they have to play a game. He sends her a video link to her phone, and it's a video of Amber, and he will kill her if she doesn't play this game.
Yeah.
Which is like, crap, we've been here before.
Right.
This girl's dead. She's just dead.
Yeah. Because it's always that third question's always a trick question somehow.
Yes.
And so he's asking her questions, and I
What's
also...
the first question?
I don't remember what the questions
Well, one
are.
of them was who plays...
That was the second question.
I know. It's just funny that they still had, like, she's looking up the actors.
Well, okay, that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
I really liked how she gets the first question right. It takes her a second. Oh, it's who's the main character? She says Sidney Prescott.
Yeah.
Then gets to question 2, and she's starting to get hysterical.
Yeah.
And then she goes, who plays whatever the first person to get killed in the Stab movies?
Yes.
And then what's cool is within this franchise, they have shot the Stab movies, which are based on the Scream movies that these movies are fictionally about. And so in Scream 2, they're showing Stab 1, and they're doing the oh my gosh, what is that actress's name in Scream?
Oh, I don't remember.
No, the real one. In Scream. The first person.
Neve
Drew
Campbell?
Barrymore.
Oh, okay.
They're doing Drew Barrymore, and it's played by Heather Graham.
Yeah.
And then the killer says, who plays that in Stab? And then she pulls out her phone, and she starts looking through the cast, and it is the cast that was in the
Tori
Stab
Spelling,
movie.
Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool because I'm like, why doesn't she just pull out her phone? He wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And then when she did it, I was
Which
like,
I think
nice.
people are thinking about that.
Nice.
So she gets the answer right. And then the third question was a trick question.
Yeah.
Oh, he asked who were the killers in the first movie.
Yeah.
And she said, she's like, oh, crap, I remember. It's Billy Loomis, played by Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
Like, I got you. And, of course, trick question, because Stu was also a killer.
Yes. And so then Ghostface breaks in.
Well, they do the whole security thing on the phone.
Yeah.
Which I remember seeing the trailer for the first time. I was like, crap, they're doing that. That is so scary to me. Because when self-locking, like, security things came into play in our reality, and you have, like, an app to lock all your doors, it's just like, someone's going to hack that at some point, right? And, like, unlock everyone's doors and just come in and rob them.
Yeah.
So they're playing with that, which was very scary. And he calls her again and says, how much you want to bet, like, I got inside when the doors were unlocked.
Yeah.
And then he's there. She's running away from him. He gets her. She's bleeding. He breaks her leg. She's crawling away. Right before that, though, she does press a button to call the police.
Yeah.
But it's like they're too late. Like, the title card drops, and it's like, we know she's dead.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's the old title card.
Yeah.
But so a couple of things about that scene that are cool is when it was going, I was like, this girl's doing, like, really good.
Yeah.
She's really good. And I was kind of thinking, like, it's almost too good of a performance for someone that I don't know who they are, like Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
Where that one's like, it's good that you know who it is and she's doing so good. And then when she is killed, it's really surprising.
Yeah.
This one's like, this girl's so good. Like, it almost sucks that she's going to be the first person to get killed because she's doing amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of a little twist on the Scream. She does not die.
No. So it cuts to after some title cards and stuff.
Yeah.
We're in Modesto, California, and this girl, Sam, gets a call at work that her sister's been attacked and she's in the hospital.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, oh my gosh, she didn't die. Is anyone going to die in this movie? And we're already like, 6 minutes in.
I didn't think that.
Well, I didn't really think that either, but it's just like crazy that someone made it,
Yeah.
like to be that stabbed. She was like stabbed a lot. And
Oh yeah, and another thing, I might reference our Scream 4 episode a lot, but our guest Tom Lorenzo on that episode, I remember him saying, like, Scream 4 is just mean. Like, the kills are so mean and just, like, intense. And he liked that about the movie, and I do too. And this movie was, like, meaner.
Yeah.
Like, the kills are brutal
they
in this.
are. They really are.
They're finally not having to worry about the MPAA.
Yeah. I noticed, too, that in some of the killings, that Ghostface was wearing that costume. Like, when you buy that certain costume,
Mm-hmm.
the, like, hood or the thing that covers them, the black hood,
Cloak, yeah.
is, like, it's a cheap fabric.
Yeah.
And it's, like, sparkly. And it
Yeah.
was sparkly in the movie, like how it would be if you bought it at
It's
Target.
so cool.
It's just like, that's just such an interesting touch. They didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah. So then Sam is with her boyfriend, Jack Quaid. What's his
Richie.
name? Richie.
And he looks so much like his dad. It's crazy to me.
Really?
It's
I can't
crazy.
see it.
Especially when he smiles. It's
I
like,
can't see it
that
at all.
is Dennis Quaid. That's crazy. You can't see it at all?
I can't see it. I need to see like pictures beside each
Yeah,
other.
you should.
I can't see it.
Totally look that up.
Um,
He's really good in this movie.
so
I haven't seen him in anything because I don't watch The Boys. And what was the other thing I said he was in? I don't even remember. I just haven't seen him in anything yet besides his appearances on Comedy Bang Bang.
yeah, but he's very funny in Comedy Bang Bang.
Yeah.
And I'm the cast of this movie is crazy good.
Yeah.
It's like they're mostly new to me. And they're all like so locked in. The only person I was a little lax on was the girl with the crazy hair.
Yeah.
But I think that's who she's supposed to be.
Definitely. Definitely.
So you're kind of like put off by her anyway.
She's the boring one.
Yeah. I mean, they say that.
Yeah.
So
she
head to
needs,
the hospital.
She needs to go to Woodsboro. He goes with her. It's
Yeah.
so romantic. So it's interesting because you're a little there's some history here you learn right off the bat of like, oh, she hasn't seen her sister. This person, I didn't know they were sisters at first. So it's like, she hasn't talked to this person in a long time. Why? You find out they're sisters. Oh, what's the history? What's going on?
Yeah.
And we did see when we were introduced to her character that she takes some kind of medication that we don't know what it is. And
Yeah.
when she goes to the hospital, Tara is surrounded by her friends. And Amber is very protective over Tara because she knows the history between these sisters. So you find out that like Sam is the older sister and ran away when their father left so many years ago and left her sister alone and all this trauma.
Yeah.
But she's here now and she's here to take care of her sister.
Yeah. And so they do a couple of nice red herrings in the movie.
Yeah.
One of them being that the mom is never in the movie.
Yes.
And toward the end of the movie, I was like, it'd be sort of lame if it was the mom because she literally hasn't been in the movie, but maybe it's the mom.
Yeah.
And then the whole Billy Loomis thing, it does have an actual emotional payoff, but because we find out that Sam is like the daughter, like illegitimate daughter of Billy Loomis. And when she found that out, she ran away from home.
Guys, Skeet is in this movie.
Skeet's in the movie.
Holy crap. I was so excited to see him in this movie, and I had no idea.
I had no idea.
Oh my gosh. And then I was just like, Matthew Lillard's in this movie now? Yeah. And he wasn't, which is a bummer, but the story didn't call for it.
But so that that felt like almost like a red herring until it had the like emotional climax of her just like stabbing like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But okay,
but he's like throughout kind of telling her like, this is what you need to do. You need to be like this.
You
blah,
need
blah,
to like
blah.
be a killer.
Yeah.
And okay, so this is rare for me to say, folks, but this is a good instance of de-aging. Skeet Ulrich looked like Billy Loomis still, and the de-aging worked, and I think it worked because he was a
She was hallucinating him.
what is that called? He was a hallucination.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a sheen. It looks a little unnatural,
And
but he's not real.
And he's wearing the clothes that he was killed in.
Yeah.
So you're just thinking about you're noticing those things, I think, rather than
He's
just
a
like,
ghost.
yeah.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so they're doing a classic thing that requels do, where, Force Awakens. Here's a bunch of new characters, and then also remember Han Solo, remember Darth Vader's mask, remember Luke. Like, we're going to show all of these characters. And so Billy Loomis is another one where it's like, if they don't pay that off right, then that's just dumb fan service.
Yes. Because it's like, we already have Nev, Courtney Cox, and
David Arquette,
which I know they're in all of them, but it's like, we don't need anyone else.
Right. So
Seriously, it's like Spider-Man. They put Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in the movie, and they did something with them.
yeah.
They didn't just have him in there because they know we would all poop our pants over it. They had something to do. Same with Skeet, he had something to do.
Right.
It was just so good. And I was just like, please be in more of the movie.
But it was a little surprising
Yeah.
to walk out and be like, that was actually satisfactory, because that could have been really obligatory.
So easily terrible. So easily.
So easily. So he just pops up every once in a while and kind of is like, become your destiny. Is
Yeah.
what he's doing.
Yeah.
So we meet their group of friends at the hospital, like we said.
So Wes, Dylan Minette,
Yes.
is like the Well, no. He's
No,
not.
he's not.
But he's like the.
So
we find
he's
out-
Judy's daughter, son.
Yeah, find out that he is the now sheriff from the third movie, fourth movie. Her son.
Oh, wait. I think she might be in the third, too.
No, I think it's the fourth.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just the fourth.
And he is very distrustful of everyone.
Yeah.
Assume everyone's the killer. He is so prepared. Like, everyone needs to be carrying tasers and pepper spray.
Uh-huh.
And then Mason Gooding is just like your jock. He has this girlfriend that I forget her name, and they are. What's funny is, like, they haven't had sex and they say that, and it's like at one point in the movie, it's like, I think we're both ready, and he's like, I just feel like it's not a good idea because you could kill me.
Yeah. Well, and which I just remembered, he knows the rule that if you have sex, you can get killed.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, there's
So that's
two
just,
reasons
like,
not to have sex with you
So
right now.
funny, nice touch.
Yeah.
And then his sister, I forget her name right now.
She's the Randy, like the
She's
true
the
Randy. And she's so good in this movie.
Mindy. She's the Randy. And then Amber is aloof, I would say, and very protective over Tara. So since this is the spoiler-free section.
No, spoiler filled.
Oh, sorry. Since this is the spoiler-filled section.
Yeah.
So what's fun about a Scream movie, past the first one, I think, is it doesn't really matter if you guess if it's the person or not. It's just more fun to go on the ride.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's not who, it's why this is happening for me.
Okay.
That's what I want to know. But I will say, when she's in this movie and to see what kind of character she's playing, and because of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, this is the only other thing I've seen her in.
Amber, you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm just like, she could be it because of what I've seen, what she can do. That's why I thought that. And not only is she one of them, she is it to the nth degree, to where they kill her just like they do in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it
break something on her face and then light her
blew
on
my
fire.
mind. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But I had like a stinking suspicion, but it wasn't like the whole movie. I'm like, could be this person now, could be this person.
See, because it's a Scream movie, I was like, okay, I'm going to try and see what I can do here.
Yeah.
And I had no idea the whole movie. And then once it got to the reveal, like the scene before it reveals that it's Amber, someone said like, oh, well, Amber's upstairs with Tara. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, I was thinking it was her, but it can't be because she was upstairs with Tara.
Well, at that point, I thought Tara was also in on it.
And
for getting back at her sister because that's a motive, for never confiding in her and the truth about herself.
Yeah, but then like one scene later, it's like, nope, it was her. And then I actually thought that they played it so well that Richie is like, he's almost too obvious.
Yes.
That I never thought he was the killer.
I think me too. And I actually thought that there could be a third one this time.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Right.
We've done 2 for so long.
Yeah.
And then I forgot I was going to say something else. So in the hospital, meets her friends, talks to her sister. Her sister is like, I don't want anything to do with you. Or she's just really cold towards her. She goes, has a break.
Yeah.
Has a minute, talks to her dead dad, and Ghostface attacks her.
Yeah.
And she barely makes it out alive. This is kind of a funny thing that they do in all these movies, and in just a lot of movies in general, that always just are funny, is she's like, he was just there. I just almost got killed. He's there. And the police officer runs into that break room, sees the other open door that Ghostface clearly ran through, and does not pursue.
Yeah.
And it happens again in this movie, and it's just funny because that would never happen.
Well, okay, can I jump ahead and tell you something that I thought in this movie?
Yeah.
I think, the ending was absolutely magnificent and brilliant. And that was the best part of the movie. But the scene where Wes is at home by himself and his mother's been killed, I think is one of the best horror scenes that's been shot in like 20 years.
It was funny. They were really toying with us.
Yeah, because so they basically, what they did, if you decided to brave this without and go spoiler filled, His mother gets killed outside of the house, and he's taking a shower.
Mhm.
And then Ghostface is going to come in and kill him. And he goes downstairs, and I think they did it 5, maybe 6 or 7 times where he set up the shot, that they set up the shot so that he walked in a certain way, would like open up the refrigerator, and then they did the thing where the violins are like, and he would close the fridge and nothing's there. So they did that once. Then he walked to like the pantry, did it again. Then he went back to the fridge.
His bedroom door.
I think they did it 5 or 6 times, and that was the most I heard out of the audience because people started chuckling.
Yeah,
at
it was
that
funny.
scene. And then it finally attacks him, and I thought, like, what a smart way to like make fun of that trope that is so.
They are still ratcheting up tension the whole time.
They are.
Even if nothing happened, you just feel a pit in your stomach.
Yeah, but it also is all kind of upended because they've already killed his mom, so it's like, it's already like tense.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
It's so good.
With that
This
scene,
movie's
where
so
it's
good.
just before he got home, it's like, oh, she's totally gonna get killed. I can't believe they're killing her. Even though it doesn't really matter. And then it's like, oh, she's going to pick up the sushi. I guess she's not getting killed. I guess it's her son, which is kind of crazy. And then she does get murdered in broad daylight in front of her house. Crazy. And then her son just gets murdered too. So both of them just die.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, okay. But this movie has, you don't call it retconning because it's not, but it just has like convenient storytelling that moves the story forward, which is the whole Billy Loomis thing. And I just think it's well written. As we said before, even with the introduction of her hallucinating Billy Loomis, I think they do a great job. And then they kind of take care of it all quickly with her sister in the first act. Instead of waiting until like the end of Act 2 to tell her sister what happened. And she's like found her mom's diaries when she was young, read them, found out that her mom was in love with Billy Loomis and he impregnated her. And then she's like, holy crap, my dad's a serial killer. And that's why I ran away. And it's like, wow, we just really took care of it all in a scene. Yeah. That felt good. Yeah. And it did feel cathartic.
So one thing that we skipped over because I jumped way ahead was that all the friends discuss stuff a little bit at like a bar. And while they're there, there's this guy that used to, who was he used to
date?
He
hooked up with one of the girls.
Yeah. And he's just a total like red herring.
Why?
Well, because they show him, he shows up and it's like, oh, maybe this is the guy. He looks pretty sketchy. And then like the next scene he's in, he gets murdered.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of, and thinking back on it, I don't really get why he was in the movie.
Well, he was a red herring.
But I guess that's true.
Yeah. So, kind of the only like maybe truly useless of the sequences, but it was funny though because they did so he pees outside like on a wall and then lights hit him and he turns around and that shot is in the trailer of him turning around and I just never imagined that he was peeing. And so when the movie was going, I was like, oh.
You know what? I bet that they did not want you to think that he was peeing. And that's why you didn't think that.
They probably didn't want us to think that.
Yeah.
That would be such a huge spoiler. So he's killed.
He's killed.
And then that's when there's the hospital attack.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then
Tara tells Sam to leave. She does not want, because she tells her everything. And then she's like, I'm done. Get out. I can't believe you wouldn't tell me this.
I forgot that, all that Billy Loomis explanation is right at the beginning of the movie, pretty much.
Yeah, it's good. So she leaves and is like, we need to talk to an expert on what's happening if we need to survive. And I like throughout the movie, she's explaining the town of Woodsboro to Richie, her boyfriend, and explaining these stab movies. And he's like, I never watched those. Should I watch them? And at one point he's watching it on his phone in the hospital. And he's like, I just feel like I ought to do my homework. Yeah. It's just very funny.
Yeah. And those some little seeds, he's just faking all of that. I just can't wait to talk about the message board stuff. So they show up to a trailer and it's Dewey. And he says, give me one reason why I should let you in the house. He's like an alcoholic. You can tell he's not with Gail. He watches her on the news
every morning. She's like, she has a morning show.
Yeah. In which she says, and I had to tell you because I was like, did you hear that? And she missed it. In the morning show, the camera's panning away, and you hear Gale say, "If I ever get bangs again, someone stage an intervention." And as we recall, I think it's Scream 3.
Yeah.
Might be 2, actually.
It might be 2.
She has bangs.
She has the worst bangs ever.
And they look so bad.
So that felt good.
What's interesting is, so all of these requels, I've always looked at them as reboots, but I've never actually heard that term requel till watching this movie.
Well,
but
maybe they're taking it.
Yeah, I like it. But where you take a beloved franchise and then you kind of reset it and restart it. That's why I always thought it was a reboot. But you like keep the canon.
Yes.
So in this movie, they're doing all those little tropes that these movies do where they're like, hey, let's correct that thing that fans don't like. So the bangs, they're bad. Let's mention it so that fans go, they like we did. And a lot of times that's kind of silly, and it's just like, why are you spending time with bangs? I think because this movie is what it is and it's saying what it's saying about these types of movies, it gets away with it.
Yeah.
That's what I meant earlier by the movie bakes a cake and it can eat it too.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So she says everything that's going on, Ghostface tried killing her sister. Does she tell him that she's the daughter of Billy Loomis?
I think that's how she gets in.
I think so.
She's like, I'm his daughter.
And he opens the door and he's like, that shouldn't be, like, I shouldn't let you in for what you just told me because of how involved he's been with all of it. But what's funny is, so they get inside and they all sit down and he does most of the talking.
Yeah.
Because he's like, this is what you need to do.
Right. I love this.
Yeah.
And he basically says, like, you should look at Richie, because
he's like, how long have you guys been dating? 6 months. He's a suspect.
Yeah, he could be the guy. I mean, it can always be the love interest. And so he's your number one guy. And he has that thing where he's like, there's a couple of rules you're going to need to do. And he starts going through some of the rules. And I love all of that. Then what happens?
He's no longer he's no longer a deputy or a sheriff. He's retired and he is unwilling to help them. So he gives them some bit of information and helpful tips and sends them on their way.
And then he calls Sydney.
Yes, he calls Sydney. She has kids now.
Yeah.
Crazy. And tells her that Ghostface is back.
She looks great.
Come on. She looks great.
Neve Campbell looks great.
And he says, do you have a gun? And she said, come on, Dewey. I'm Sydney effing Prescott. Of course I have a gun or know how to shoot a gun or something like that. And and then he texts Gale. He texts her and says, Ghostface is back. Don't come here.
Yeah.
And then he almost says something, I'm assuming, like, I still love you.
Yeah, he writes, I still, and then he deletes it. Good use of texting again.
Yeah.
They're tapping into that.
Yeah.
Again, this is stuff that they were trying to tap into in the last movie, and there wasn't quite enough time yet.
I think so. So Sam and Richie go to Tara's friend's house.
Yeah.
Because there's like a meeting has been called. And Dewey also shows up. So it's like, he is going to help. Yay!
Yeah.
And so they're all in there. And Mindy has a huge long monologue about all what's going on.
Yeah. So this is when she explains that, like, nowadays, when you make a movie, you can't just pretend that the past didn't happen. Fans don't like that. But you also can't, like, stray too far away from the formula. And she goes, Halloween. You can't have Halloween without Jamie Lee Curtis. So you also have to have legacy characters. Yeah. And she's using all this terminology that we've heard in all of the countless podcasts and YouTube videos and all that stuff. So she's like, Dewey's here. We now have a legacy character. This is a requel. This is not a sequel. And right here, I'm like, okay, this is why the movie's called Scream and not Scream 5.
Yes. Oh, yeah. What did they say specifically? It's like, you can't, it's not technically a sequel, so you can't name it something different, and it's not technically a reboot at the same time, but it is like a rebranding of the same thing.
Yeah.
Therefore, you can make it the same title.
Yeah. And there's a great, I forgot which movie they said it was.
It was like Stab 5 or Stab 8 or something, and they were like, oh, the one directed by the guy who did Knives Out?
Which is, I think they did say Stab 8 because he directed Star Wars Episode 8.
Oh, but didn't everyone hate Stab 8?
That's the thing.
Okay.
Because, so this is what was great, is they said the Star Wars thing without saying it specifically. They said it's directed by the guy who did which
Knives Out.
I need to look up on Twitter or something if he said anything, because I bet he was just tickled pink that they mentioned him, because Last Jedi comes out and critics are like, this rules, and it's like breaking new ground, and fans, for the most part, of course there's exceptions, but fans are like, this movie sucks, it spits on Star Wars, even though it doesn't, and they're like, this is the worst. Those are the simplified things. So they're saying like, oh yeah, he made Stab 8, Star Wars 8, and people are like, oh, this is too far outside of what we know as Stab.
Yeah, and I think it's also just fun to say that he's the guy that did Knives Out, because that's a whole whoddunit, and this movie's a whodunit.
Yeah,
so that's fun too.
Yeah,
but later on, I think it's Richie's watching some stuff about Stab 8.
Yeah.
And it's like a YouTube video about why it completely departs from what it is and should be, and it's just crapping on the whole series. And you're seeing footage from the movie, and Ghostface has like a chainsaw.
Yeah.
He almost feels like he's mystical or something in some way. It's really funny.
Well, and when that scene happened, when he's watching the YouTube video, I was like, oh, crap, we're doing a podcast on this movie. Because this movie is throwing shade at like amateur film critics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, and film critics in general. They've always kind of pushed at that. But it's just sort of funny, this idea of fan culture, and this movie's talking about it. Just like Matrix is, but a little bit different in this one. We have these two movies in one calendar, like 4 weeks apart. Oh, what a time to be alive for movies.
So she goes through this whole monologue to essentially everyone being like, okay, then who's the killer?
Yeah.
And she says it's Sam. Because she has the biggest motive for all of her reasons. A big one was her biggest motive of Billy was her dad. That's enough.
Yeah.
And of course, I think Sam gets really upset and leaves. And I can't remember what happens right after that.
Let me see here. Oh, I missed this. As they attempt to uncover the connection between the killer and Sam, Vince is revealed to be Stu's nephew. And Vince is the guy who got killed after peeing.
Oh.
Didn't catch that.
Also, Mindy and Mason Gooding, I can't remember that guy's name, their uncle is Randy. So for Mindy to be the Randy of the movie, fun. Yeah,
very fun. And then we have Ghostface attacks Judy and Wes, which we actually already talked about. And then at the hospital, Tara and Richie are attacked by Ghostface, who is stopped by Dewey and Sam, who arrive. Oh, yes.
At the hospital?
So this scene...
Wait. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So this scene, the Tara gets a feeling, and she's like, I got to get out of my hospital room because no one's here.
And then the power gets shut off.
The police went to Judy's house.
And the security, when she gets into the hallway, the security officer is dead.
He's dead.
And this is very Halloween 2.
Very Halloween 2. And her acting in the scene hurt so bad. She did so good. She's trying to use her wheelchair, and her hands are cut up and stuff. And she's
There's blood on one of the wheels. Just good touch.
And she's flinching every time, and she's letting out a sound, but she can't even help it.
Yeah.
And the way this actor is doing it is kind of blowing my mind, because I'm looking at it going, there's no way that she can't make sound. That's how much pain she's in.
Yeah.
She did so good.
Yeah, she did.
Unbelievable. Ghostface comes out. He attacks her. Or she. I don't know.
Well, Richie shows up, and Richie gets sliced in the arm.
That's when I thought, oh, it's not Richie.
Of course. Well, that's what happened in Scream 2. Her boyfriend went after him, and he got hurt, and everyone thought it was him.
Yeah.
But Richie tries helping. He gets hurt, so he can't really help. And then Sam is calling him. Ghostface gets his phone and is like, I'm going to give you a choice, either Richie or Tara. You get to choose which one lives and which one dies. And she can't decide. And her and Dewey are racing to the hospital, and he's making her feel terrible for not being able to decide to save her dying sister, her sister, all this stuff. And then she's like, well, maybe I'm just trying to stall you. And the elevator doors open, and Dewey is coming in, guns blazing.
Yeah. Oh, and I did forget to mention, the first time we see him with his gun, they play his old theme. That's the Hans Zimmer thing that we talked about in Scream 2, but where it's like down.
Oh, okay.
The Western sound. So that was fun.
Yeah.
So he shoots Ghostface after they struggle and stuff for a while, and he gets him.
Mhm.
And all you're doing as the audience, and I think the person next to me was doing this, is you're like, oh, take off the mask, take off the mask, take off the mask, take off the mask. And then he takes him to the hospital, and you're like, come on, Dewey, you're a little smarter than this.
Well, they're
Or I
in the
mean, the
hospital.
elevator. Takes him to the elevator, and then he goes, wait, you got to shoot him in the head or they never die. So he goes up, he's about to shoot him in the head, and then his phone goes off. It's Gail.
Mm-hmm.
Who we didn't talk about them meeting. We'll do that after we're done with this. And that distracts him.
Ghostface wakes up. He's
and you
wearing a
see that he's
bulletproof vest.
Yeah. Stabs him in the stomach.
And the back.
Stabs him in the
And
back.
drags the knives up his body. Because when he first gets stabbed, even front and back, I was like, that's okay. He's come out of worse.
Yeah.
He has nerve damage from this Ghostface. And then he starts dragging the knives up him, and I'm like, oh, crap. He's dead.
And then you have dolly shot wide as it's pulling out as you're just seeing dead Dewey and Ghostface standing over him. And they're giving you the hero shot of like he's a fallen hero now.
Mm-hmm. Gail.
And it's pretty final. You know what I mean? There's no
question.
he's going to show up at the end.
He's coming out in a body bag, and Gail is having her reaction to it.
Yeah.
So Gail does, of course, end up coming to Woodsboro because she's got a story to tell.
Uh-huh.
And that's always the thing with her and Dewey, is they always have a contention of like, well, of course you're here just to get your story.
Uh-huh.
When he's scared for her and doesn't want her near here.
Right.
But she's going to come anyway. And we find out that Dewey left her, which was crazy.
Yeah.
So she's like, you had your moment. It was my turn. And she got this, like Good Morning America type of show in New York. And he lasted 2 months and left in the middle of the night because he couldn't handle it. Because he's a Woodsboro boy.
Yeah.
And it's just sad because they never got to reconcile after that talk.
Yeah. But it did feel
it felt
sort
good.
of nice. Yeah.
No, yeah, it felt nice. You could see that they still cared for each other and loved each other.
Yeah.
But it is not completely reconciled before he dies.
And Sydney had no plans to come, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
But then she hears that Dewey's dead.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, okay, I gotta go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are we already there? Are we already toward like where she picks him up in the car?
This movie clips along at a good pace.
It really does. Under 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Most good horror movies are under 2. I shouldn't say any. I mean, The Shining's way over 2.
But that's elevated horror. So yeah, Sydney shows up. She's trying to help Sam. So Sam and her sister and Richie are getting out of town.
Yeah, they're like, we're
running.
going to do the one thing they never do. We're just getting out of here.
And Sydney's like, I can help you. And Sam's like, I don't even want to talk to you. I don't want to see you near me, because if I see you, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Which is not that illogical.
Mm.
So she's trying to get her to stay. It's not working, but Sydney has enough time to put a tracker in her car so her and Gail can follow.
Uh-huh.
Love the team up of Sydney and Gail.
Yeah, and
it's not super long, but
they have some nice like banter that's very like heartwarming that I like.
Mm-hmm.
I really love, just so that I don't forget, how they just like cold-blooded murder the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean they're justified in their actions, but they didn't try and do like a Han shot first, or Greedo shot kind of thing. It's just like they're like, no, we know that it's death or nothing with these guys.
Yeah.
And they're just like totally badass, both of them.
Yes.
So, Rich and Tara and Sam are on their way out, and
Tara can't find her inhaler.
Can't find her inhaler.
There's an extra one at Amber's house, so they just got to stop real quick.
So they head over to Amber's house.
There's a rager going on.
And did you realize it was the same house or no?
No, not right away. I mean, probably not until the big reveal, which I was just like, how could I forget, though? Because I think this is in the trailer. Like, why wouldn't this be the house?
Yeah.
Did you know?
I just thought like, oh, they're doing an homage.
The entire layout, well, because of how it was decorated, the layout was so different to me. And they didn't want you to really know.
Yeah.
So
I just thought like, oh, this feels like the first house. It's a party again.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just giving you that feeling.
Yeah.
But we will find out it is the actual house from Scream 1.
Mm-hmm.
Cake and eating it too, man.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're celebrating the death of Wes, I think.
Yeah.
They're it's an excuse to party and remember a friend.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting hammered. And at one point, Amber goes down to the basement alone to get more beer.
Uh-huh.
And they do the whole, she opens the door and she shuts it. And Mindy's right there.
Yeah.
And Mindy is just chiding her for not asking someone to go down with her.
Good word.
Thanks. And it's like, you could be the murderer for all I care. And the other person's like, well, you could be the murderer because of X, Y, and Z. It's good.
And Amber says, I am the murderer.
Yeah.
And then Minnie looks at her and smiles, and she's like, now you're learning. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you go up the stairs first. No, you.
What's good, the Mindy character, the actress, is just so good because she knows everything.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, she's scared of nothing, which almost killed her.
Right.
Which is
right.
just, I think there is a lot of truth to that, where people who are know-it-alls don't feel like they need to fear things because they see it all coming.
Yeah.
When literally they did a wonderful thing where she's watching Stab One and Randy is watching the TV.
And he's watching Halloween.
And he's watching Halloween, and Ghostface is right behind him as he's saying, like, turn around. And she is saying it too because she's having fun. She's like, turn around. And she realizes, oh, I should turn around. And Ghostface is there.
Yeah.
It was really good.
But so all of this stuff at the party I thought was really cool. And it feels like they haven't really done this in the Scream series where, they've had all this mistrust, throughout because everyone's a suspect. But in this one, I feel like they really nailed it to where I felt like all of their actions were truly making sense.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that basement scene that you just talked about really illustrates that well. And then, when Mason and the girl are making out, and then she's like, let's go upstairs. I'm ready. And he's like, I'm 98% sure you're not the killer, but...
Mm-hmm.
And then she leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And then that provokes like an emotional response from him that I think it makes sense that he leaves the party on his own terms.
So he goes out to find her, and then he gets killed by Ghostface.
Yeah. Another brutal killing.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, is she the killer? But earlier, Randy. Mindy had said,
you're too boring.
You're too boring to be the killer.
Yeah.
And they even have a scene together, Mindy and that girl, I don't even remember her name, and she's like, you said I was boring. Maybe I'm the killer. Mm-hmm. And there's some pretty funny, like the audience reacted to this where she's like, well, okay, now maybe you are, because you are freaking me out.
Yeah.
Like you're being crazy right now. And then Sydney, Gail show up.
Well, right before that, Sam, Richie, and Tara are there.
Right.
And Richie shuts down the party, makes everyone leave. They're trying to find the inhaler. And
Tara goes upstairs with
Amber.
Amber. I almost said Amanda. And then Richie and Sam are
Richie goes
downstairs.
to get a beer.
Yeah, he goes to get a beer.
He does ask Mindy to go with him, and she says no.
Yeah, and
but
then
he goes down by himself.
He says, I'll be right back.
Don't say it.
Don't say it.
And what is Sam doing?
Sam is just like waiting downstairs or something?
I can't remember. But she gets attacked. Well, she finds Mindy had been attacked. So she's trying to help Mindy when Ghostface comes in.
Yeah.
And there's struggle. I can't quite remember the logistics of the scene.
Yeah, it's a little hard to remember the exact.
But while that's going on, we do find out that one of the killers is Amber.
Yeah.
We do realize that.
Well, Gail gets...
Well, no, we find that out before
shot?
they get there.
Really?
Yeah, because... I think so.
I don't think so.
She does... I think
they reveal it all in the one scene.
Well, I thought that they revealed it because then Gail and Sydney get there, and Amber comes running out. She's like, he got me. Please, you have to help me. And then they're both like, do you really think that she could be her, or do you think she could be the killer? And both of them are not reacting to this person who's apparently hurt, and then she shoots Gail.
Okay.
That's my memory of it.
Okay, Mindy is attacked, but Sam intervenes, manages to fend off Ghostface. As a group accuse each other of being Ghostface. Amber shoots and kills Liv. Oh, right.
Yes, that's what happens.
She just shoots and kills her, revealing herself as the killer. When Gail and Sydney arrive, just like you said, Amber feigns injury, but neither Sydney nor Gail buy her performance, and they look at each other and they go, she's faking.
But the girl gets off a shot. Gail gets shot. She's out for the count. She's not dead, but she's out for the count.
Yeah, and then
So-
Sydney's walking through the house by herself.
Mhm.
She gets a phone call, and the person's like, "It's such an honor."
And it's talking to her more, and she's like, "I'm bored," and hangs the phone up.
Yeah,
I
love that. And
But
then
she's,
she's
like,
shooting
shooting-
through doors as
She's
she's
shooting
walking.
every door. I feel like at head level or torso level,
Torso, I think.
and then opens the door to make sure no one's in there. And she does shoot Richie.
Or no, she's shooting him at leg level because he gets shot in the
'cause he's
leg.
So she does shoot him in a closet, and she's like, "How come you didn't come out?" And she's like, and he says, "Because you're shooting everything."
Yeah.
So she saves him. You would think.
And then I'm like, okay, he's not the killer. At this point, I'm like, okay, we're at the very end, and I kind of thought maybe I had a little bit of this figured out, but I have no idea. I honestly have no idea who's killing who. I mean, I know Amber's there, but then I'm like, that doesn't feel like that's it.
No, yeah. And then so at one point, so at first Sam and Richie are in the basement, and Sam wants to go back upstairs because of her sister, and Richie is like, "You really shouldn't do that. You're going to get killed." And she like holding him at knife point, and she leaves, goes upstairs, find Tara duct tape and tied in a closet. And she's about to untie her sister, and I think right before Richie's like, "It could be your sister though."
Right.
So she's about to let her sister loose and hesitates. So and then the camera cuts before you know what she does.
And I assumed that she didn't.
Same.
And then Sam and where did Mindy go? Because she lives, right?
She's like passed out in the living room because she was stabbed.
Sam, Gail, and Sydney are all trapped by them in the kitchen.
In the kitchen, just like the first movie.
And then we get revealed it's Richie and it's Amber. And Amber's acting and Richie in the scene. I mean, they're like doing the Stu and the Billy thing. I mean, they're nailing it. And so this is when we get into where I beam a smile and I'm just like, I love this movie. I love this movie because now we're talking even more so about fandom. So these two people are fans of the series and they're so upset with where it's gone. They want to stage these killings in a way that would make for a better stab
Which
movie.
is crazy. So a franchise goes so poorly that people are taking it into their own hands to make it better. They're giving them source material to make it better.
Well, in a way,
That's,
I mean,
like, who's to say that's not going to happen at some point? Is what's scary.
well, there's fan edits. There's this kind of thing. Not the murdering thing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the idea of, I mean, even the idea of looking at Star Wars, I mean, that's just the easiest example, and saying something like, oh, I just pretend that the new trilogy doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it does.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't like it, but it does. Just like I'm always like, there's Psycho 1, and that's it. But there's 4 other movies. Or 3 other movies.
Because there's that one remake. That's an actual remake.
Yeah, okay, so there's 4.
Yeah.
It's like those do exist, whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what I think about it.
Yeah.
So this freaking rules, and they met on a Reddit message board, which I love that touch. And they're just talking about like how messed up the franchise has gotten, and they needed to do like the reboot the way that all these Hollywood people are doing reboots now that prioritize the fans over story sometimes in some cases. I like some of these movies that have been discussed in this episode, but there is like an emphasis on we want the fans to be happy. That's why you hear people in interviews like Jason Reitman haven't seen Ghostbusters, have no attachment to Ghostbusters, but he's only saying things like, I wanted to make one for a fan because I'm a fan of Ghostbusters. You're not hearing him say, we had this wonderful story that we really wanted to tell. It's like, no, same thing with Star Wars. They're like, let's hire Lawrence Kasdan and let's make Force Awakens, have him write another story.
That guy write other movies.
He wrote Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, this is going to be for you guys, the fans. This is the Comic-Con. This is all of this stuff. And I like some of this stuff, but this movie's tapping into all that. And it's so freaking cool. I mean, please.
So yeah, they met on this message board and they devised this whole plot. And they're going through it all here. And they needed it's perfect. They're going to make Sam the killer. They're going to stage it.
Yeah.
Because Billy is her dad. And I think they are going to kill Sydney.
Yeah.
I think that is the plan. And they do bring Gail in, and Sydney does get stabbed. And it's because Dewey died. I was like, I guess I would not like it, though, because she feels like the fun flip side of some horror franchises where Sydney never dies. Just like how Michael Myers never dies.
Right,
That's
you're
what
right.
that's what I like
cool.
about this part of this. One thing I like about this series. And it's looking very grim and very bleak.
Uh-huh.
And then what changes?
I don't remember exactly. Tara.
Oh, Tara comes in.
Comes
because
downstairs.
Sam does untie her.
And I love right before that, Richie's like, I even got you to doubt your own sister. And then and you didn't even untie her or something like that. And she goes, I never said I didn't untie her.
Yes, and that's when she comes in and she starts wailing on Amber.
Yeah.
And
then that causes confusion.
Chaos and confusion happens. So Richie and Sam end up in the front part of the room, the foyer of the house.
Uh-huh.
And he's continuing on, just telling her like this is how it all is and stuff. She's on the ground trying to, she's reaching up for the door or something, anything. And she looks up at this mirror and sees Billy, and he like nods at her.
Yeah.
And she sees this, what was it, like a cane or something?
Something like
that she got to be able to like thwart him coming at her, and she gets the knife and goes ham on stabbing him, like ham.
And see, this is why the Billy Loomis stuff is not just a throwaway, because she's stabbing him, and she is stabbing him like this is maybe the most aggressive kill in the whole movie, and it's our heroine who's doing it.
And there's blood all over her face.
And she's stabbing, and so this whole movie she's been afraid that she has Billy Loomis inside her. And at this moment, she finds out she truly does, but she's able to use his killing tendencies for good. Mm-hmm. And so it has an actual emotional payoff.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty epic, too, because he's like, but what about my finale? And she's like, you want your finale? Here it is. And she slits his throat.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, while that's happening, Gail and Sydney are taking on Amber.
And take over, because you were so excited.
So first thing that happens is they throw a giant bottle of hand sanitizer in her face. Uh-huh. And I immediately, I was like, don't turn to Micah and don't talk about it, because this isn't the time. But I was just like, they threw something in her face just like Brad Pitt did.
There's the can
of dog food in her face. And it's like, that's kind of an interesting choice.
Uh-huh.
And then they're continuing to fight with her. The burner on the stove gets turned on. Gail or Sydney have like a big one-liner that I can't remember right now. And they like push her back, and she falls onto the flames and bursts into flames. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is just a direct homage to Quentin Tarantino for a split second of her.
Now, it was very funny because you were like, that's twice that's happened to her now. That's what you said to me in the theater. And I said, what? Because I was like, I don't remember her being on fire in this movie.
Yeah.
And I was really confused. And then I said, what do you mean?
And then I had to explain it to you.
Well, you said in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that happens to her. And that was this moment I had, like when you watch an anime and you're listening to the English dub and you have no idea who the voice is, but you've heard it a million times. Oh. And then in your head, you're like, oh, wait, that pig is Michael Keaton. And then you have this rush of euphoria and you're just like floating for a second.
That's what you felt?
That's what I felt, because I was like, oh, that's where that girl is from. Because I did not know.
Like, she had the thing thrown in her. Brad Pitt threw that dog food in her face, and you're like, oh yeah, yeah, pretty good. So then they're both dead. Wink, wink. But Cindy says you got to shoot them in the head, or else they're not dead. So Sam shoots Richie in the head.
Yeah.
And then right then,
Amber, nice splatter.
I know. Amber comes running out, and she gets shot in the head, and she's dead.
And then it starts fading back like it doesn't. They recreate the shot from the first movie.
I like, what is
the last shot from the first movie.
What does Sam ask Sydney? Does she say like, am I going to be okay? And and Sydney's like, in time you will be.
Yeah, and that was very sweet.
Yeah.
And then that was the end.
I know. I was like, please don't have another scene. This is perfect. Because we don't need another scene. It was so
good. It was so freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I think that this will be a tough movie to dethrone. I know it's the beginning of 2022, but I keep a movie list as the year goes on, and I like to have a top 10 at the end of the year. I think this is going to be a tough movie to dethrone for probably most of the year, this will probably be my number one. Maybe until Spider-Verse comes out.
Wow.
Well, The Northman does look pretty cool. Speaking of elevated horror.
Yeah. Well, is that horror, though?
I don't think this one is.
It doesn't feel like it. It just feels dark.
Yeah.
Like the Batman.
I think I'm going to like this movie more than The Batman. Although we finally saw a new trailer.
It felt so good to see a new trailer. And I am going to see it, and I am looking forward to seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I like Matt Reeves. Let me in. He's proven to me that
we should cover it.
Well, for the Patreon.
On
right?
Patreon, in addition to our Batman
But
coverage.
the biggest driving force is Paul Dano for me.
Yeah.
I got to get me some Dano. It's been too long.
Yeah, I've just been exhausted by the darkness of it.
Yes.
But when I saw that trailer, new footage and stuff, this was the first time since they released a trailer that I was like, oh, I think I will go see this movie.
Yeah, it was kind of the first one where I was like, I think they might have something to say.
Yeah. Because
we'll see, though.
After the first trailer came out, I was just like, I got to a point where like a month ago, if you asked me, are you going to see Batman? I would have said, I'll probably wait till it comes out.
I know. I thought I was going to have to see that one alone. I also think that the music's going to be good.
I'm not sure.
I like it in the trailer.
Yeah.
I think
it annoys me.
Okay.
But I think it annoys me because I've seen that trailer so many dang times.
Yeah.
But there was also a joke in the trailer, and that gave me some hope.
Oh, okay. I don't remember.
It was like just a sort of joke that cuts away, where I was like, okay, that's very like Christopher Nolan Batman kind of a
Jokey.
joke.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's sort of a joke, but you can get away with it being serious dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there'll be something fun in this movie.
We'll find out. Please don't push that movie back. Please.
Oh, I know.
Can't see any more trailers.
And I can't see the Morbius trailer again, but they've pushed it back. It's not coming out in January.
Yeah.
But here we are, and they're going to come out with another trailer. Yikes, man. But this movie rules. It made all of the reboots and the Star Wars and Ghostbusters Afterlife and all these different things. It made it like all worth it to see this movie comment on it.
Yep. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for making this movie. They have said that they'd be interested in making more Scream movies. My gut tells me you should make more in like 10 years. Like you should that's the kind of series this should be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Give it enough time. More like 15 years. And another thing, this movie came out just barely over 25 years after the first movie came out.
Oh.
Just barely.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, any final thoughts from you on Scream?
See this movie. If
Really?
you've gotten this far and through all the spoilers, still see it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Did you...
Great.
How's your Scream ranking now?
This is probably the second one.
Yeah. 1, 5, 4, 2, 3? Or did you
No,
have...
I had 2 third.
Okay.
I did like the second one. I do like the second one because they come out on sequels.
I love the second one. I only don't like the third one.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening. Please rate us and review us on iTunes. And just let us know anything on any of the movies we've covered. And next week, we'll be jumping back into John Wick Chapter 2. And this month on Patreon is Nobody? Yeah, Nobody.
Cool.
And then next month, we're doing a fun one, a really fun one that neither of us have seen.
I don't remember already.
I know, you don't remember, and that's okay. That's part of the fun. So thank you for listening, and don't answer any phone calls.
From unknown callers.
Don't answer phones at all.
Okay.
Or texts.
Bye.